Now for that big breaking news, IAS officer Amitabh Verma, whose name was mentioned in the emails accessed by India Today, has spoken out. Remember, in those emails, Vijay Malya had claimed that the bureaucrat put pressure on PSU banks to bail out Kingfisher Airlines. In fact, speaking to India Today, Amitabh Verma denies that he attended Malya's Kingfisher calendar parties. He says that he just happened to be at the mall where the party was taking place, and that's how he ended up meeting Vijay Malya. Verma accepts that he did meet Vijay Malya many times and that he did speak to top bankers about Malya's case. But the IAS officer's defense is that a call from a joint secretary banking cannot influence the opinion of a PSU bank. Just let's listen into that exclusive conversation.
Sir, we ran a story which had some comments made by Vijay Malya about certain favors he alleges you extended to him while you were joint secretary banking.
Part of the statements which are making are true. Part of them are not true at all. They have maybe, but the whole basis there is government doesn't give loan, the bank gives loan. And board, like the SBI board is a very strong board. It has the Deputy Governor, Reserve Bank of India on the board. It has the Secretary to the government on the board. It has 2-3 eminent economists, chartered accountants. All of them are on the board. They only do the sanctions. No, I went to Vasant Kunj Mall. There was this calendar event outside the mall on that Sunday. So I also walked in there. There he was there, and there was Mr. Hegde also there. So he said, "Sir, Mr. Hegde ka aisa year old." I said to him, "Mr. Hegde consider करेंगे आप भेजिए." हाँ भेजिए. उसको वो क्या ऐसा मैं आज कोई आज दिला देना लोन मैंने कोई जॉइंट सेक्रेटरी बोल दे किसी को एंड लेट द बैंक एंड दूसरा है कि हाउ मेनी लोन्स एक्चुअली हैपेंड व्हाट वाज द लोन आउटस्टैंडिंग बिफोर टू ही अप्रोच्ड द गवर्नमेंट दैट वाज अ टाइम ऑफ मेल्टडाउन ग्लोबल इकोनॉमिक मेल्टडाउन what was the loan? So it is not that Mr. Malya, it is Mr. Naresh Goyal of Jet Airways, it is Mr. Air India, it is Go Airlines, all of them. Civil aviation is a very peculiar industry. It is not an industry where there are hundreds or thousands of players.
Correct.
Like real estate, here there are only 6 players. And 2 of the players were in sound financial condition then.
Correct.
Indigo and Spice.
Correct.
The 4 were in distress. The Air India, the Jet, the Kingfisher and the Go. And all approached the government at that point in time under these.
नहीं पर ये तो अपनी ईमेल में लिख रहा है ना कि आपने मदद की इसकी, आपने फोन कर दिया, आपने कह दिया, आपके कहने पे हो गया, आपने कहा कि
हमने ईमेल
साथ नहीं, ये अपनी ईमेल में अपनी टीम को बता रहा है कि आपने कर दी मदद इसकी.
उसने वो बता रहा है अपना लोग को कि हाँ उन्होंने कहा है कि कर देंगे, कह देंगे. हाँ तो मैंने बिल्कुल जब वो हमको मिला तो हमने कहा भाई कि आप बैंक को मिलिए. बैंक को मिलिए तो कहा जैसे बैंक को बोल दिया. हाँ बोले हम डेफिनेटली बैंक को कंसिडर यू गो एंड सी देम. There were 5 concerns. In fact, there is a cabinet secretary meeting which has happened, and there is a note. So, how to ensure reduction in unemployment nahi बढ़े at the melt time. See, in October, November, December, January, February 2008-9 was the global meltdown. There were a lot of packages being done to the country to ensure that, and I was the nodal officer of that, appointed by the PMO. So it is not only Mr. Malya, it is all the real estate, it is all the NBSCs, it is all the everybody. You ask anybody and everybody. Did you meet Mr. Verma? I think 90% of them will say yes, we met Mr. Verma. Any industry who was running into a problem then. So there are RBI packages which said, okay, restructuring will be allowed. Real estate was not allowed restructuring. Restructuring was allowed in the real estate. Extra funds were made available to the banks to ensure that lending props up. The economy doesn't fall, and India was one of the countries which registered the meltdown the best in the world.
Let's go, in fact, straight across to Managing Editor TV Today, Rahul Kanwal, who spoke to the banking secretary. It's very interesting, Rahul, when you referred to those emails that exposed Kingfisher Airlines links with the then banking secretary, Amitabh Verma. He talks about the multiple layers and the several players at hand during that time.
Well, Avantika, what's interesting is that Amitabh Verma in this conversation with India Today does not deny that Vijay Malya sought his help. He also does not deny that he actually spoke to banking officials and asked them to help Kingfisher Airways. But what he says is that where does malafide get proven? He says just because Vijay Malya in his own internal emails alleges that I went out of my way or I did undue favors, that doesn't mean that I actually did so. But he's not denying that Malya met him. When I asked him about this one email which talks about Amitabh Verma being at a Kingfisher calendar launch party, and I asked him, Mr. Joint Secretary Banking, what were you doing in that party? He says, I stumbled into that party. That's his best defense. I stumbled into that party. That party was taking place at a mall and I happened to stumble into it. Now, this is not something people are going to find very easy to believe, that banking officials stumble into Malya's party. You and I can't stumble into Malya's party. You can be certain of that, Avantika.
Absolutely.
So now the key thing is, he's saying that yes, I did make these calls to banking officials, but his defense is that public sector banks don't give away loans just because somebody calls them, that they have their own board. But remember, over the past 10-15 years, the debt given out by public sector banks, which is stressed, where loans have been given out to companies which didn't deserve these loans, has been immense, and that's happened because of political interference, because of pressure from the government to these banking officials. There has been collusion, and what our investigation really does is that it exposes that there indeed has been collusion. The fact that Malya claims in these emails that these officials are helping him is something that needs to be looked at very seriously. However, corroborative evidence needs to be brought out to establish whether what Malya claims in these emails actually happened. I want to cite an instance, Avantika.
Yes.
On the 21st of March, he met the finance minister. 22nd March, he says the work is done. On the 21st of March, he's saying the deputy managing director of the SBI is not cooperating. He doesn't want to meet us. He's not issuing an NOC. Next day, he says, after our meeting at the finance ministry, it's all good and sorted. Our loan is through. Now you need to establish, by looking at actual records, whether or not the loans did get sanctioned in the manner in which Vijay Malya claims. That is what will get the compelling evidence. Interestingly, Amitabh Verma says we're the first people to call him. He says the CBI, the ED haven't called him yet. So the question also is, these investigating agencies need to move faster to get to these people, ask them the questions. Only then will we be able to build a compelling enough case to bring Vijay Malya in.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a very interesting point you made. And one wonders if all these charges are being made against, the former Prime Minister, against all those involved in possibly bailing out the beleaguered businessman during the UPA regime. Just why are those questions not being asked, even in the presence of those exclusive emails, Rahul?
So the official explanation by officials involved in these investigations is that they've got these where is all this information coming from, Avantika? The information is coming from the 2.5 lakh odd emails from Vijay Malya's internal server, which were recovered during a raid in Bengaluru. That's where suddenly you're seeing, look at what's on our screen right now. He says, despite the finance minister calling that UCO Bank official is not clearing our loans. What's going on? He's actually getting irritated at that UCO Bank official for doing his job. In this other mail, he says there's a deputy managing director of the SBI. He's not willing to meet me. I'll get the finance minister to speak to him. Now, these are the claims he's making. And the next day he says, yes, the finance minister has indeed intervened. Now, we also heard from P. Chidambaram, when we asked him this question, when he came to our budget conclave, he said that yes, Malya came and met me, and that in due process, I passed it on to the concerned officials. Was it as innocuous as that?
Right.
In this one email, which is on your screen right now, he's talking about how Sharad Pawar took Vijay Malya to meet the then finance minister. Now, why is Sharad Pawar taking a businessman to meet the finance minister to help him get his loans through? Loans which banking officials didn't believe he ought to be given because he was already deeply overexposed. Now, those are very, very serious questions of propriety.
Absolutely.
That really need to be investigated, and the truth needs to be established.
Certainly. Rahul Kaval there. Thank you so much for joining us.